Another beautiful morning in the forest. We are in December, so we have snow here in the mild climate range. A little bit snow at least. So for today I was thinking, let's have some fun. Let's take a topic that's very light and just play around. Isekaism, Isekai anime. So it came to my attention lastly that there is ever-growing creation in the cultural and artistic expression of a Japanese animated series called anime, which is called Isekai. What it actually is there are stories predominantly with the main character who lives in this our world, and something happens to him. He basically dies, he or she, there are like both genders in there, and gets reincarnated into another world, mostly a fantasy world, where the main protagonist gets some sort of superpowers and is really the hero of the story and the hero of the world. Sometimes it's more funny, sometimes it's really high fantasy, sometimes it's less high fantasy. But overall, this is like these stories that are coming in, and I was thinking, so it would be really funny to have a walk and talk about this isekai, and then let's call it the isekaism, basically. Now, the idea of by some form or shape leaving this world, getting into another world, and then ideally returning back to this world as a better, stronger, wiser, more enlightened person. That's old as the stories themselves. We could argue that, even in Plato, that there is this form of reincarnation of the soul. But where it really takes off, some people argue that Alice in Wonderland would be a similar isekai type of story, but where it really culturally took off, where this became the mainstream in the subculture of anime, and where you have a lot of production value, is, I would say, in the last 10 years, maybe 20 years. And it's an interesting point. Now, obviously from a religious perspective, you could argue, is this a substitute for heaven or not? And the whole history of heaven is really complicated, because if you look into the all the Mediterranean nations, say the belief of Judaism, which isn't that old as it states, but let's go by that. The realm of the dead is really sort of a shadowy existence. The same you have with the Greeks, where the underworld is this mere shadow of your previous existence. And in Odyssey, when they basically evocate back Achilles from the land of the dead to talk to him, giving him this drop of blood so that the spirit can manifest and they can talk to him, he's basically saying, hey, I'd rather be the last of man than the king of the underworld. So this like afterlife at that era was envisioned really grim, and in the same time maybe sooner in Egypt there was a change, because the Egyptians by their religion had differentiated between the physical manifestation of gods, which was the pharaoh as the manager of the world, responsible for making sure that the whole world will not end up in utter chaos. So he was seen as a physical descendant of the god, so he had not just the soul but the spirit, so this Ba and Ka, and so it was for the pharaohs to actually exist after death. Then later on, they just feel the high officers of the court. They're like, yeah, well, I mean, what if we can exist as well? And the religion shifted a little bit, and now everybody had this Ka and Ba. And that's where the soul gets measured in the Anubis chamber, where your soul needs to be lighter than the feather of Ma'at, so that you can enter heavens. So the idea of heavens got introduced, and then we know how heavens, the idea, took over in pre-Christianic Judaism with the Ezekiel's visions of heavens translated into Christianity, and now we have various forms of heavens, up to 7 heavens, Ezekielism. There are really various forms of heaven, though if you think about it, most of them are really typically descriptions of their era. So Jesus talks sitting on his throne. Who today sit on a throne? but other descriptions. So now moving on into the 21st century, the anime, it seems that the continuing form of human existence, which is really a typically human desire, as a human, I want to live and I want it to continue on and on and on, and even after my death I don't want to accept death. I want to some shape or form exist, and heavens seems to be a good idea, but what it is changing obviously as we explore and understand more the space, the universe, and get more culturally enriched by talking to other cultures. And this is what is done in the Japanese, because this this isekai anime, they are basically derivatives of role-playing games. So you had the creation of Dungeons and Dragons, which became a global phenomenon because many countries created their own versions. It cascaded into early PC games, and then early console games, and since then it got back into the animated culture and even mainstream movies. So the world building, the idea of this fantasy worlds is not uncommon, and it seems to be the way of the desired heaven resting place in this whole movement of the isekai, because the protagonist mostly works this absolutely grinding, we would say 9 to 5 jobs, but they are not really 9 to 5. It's from early morning till late night. There's no perspective in their life. They're just grinding day by day, whether they are in the anime some unknown, invisible high school person without any sort of importance whatsoever, or whether they are office workers just going back, hit by a truck, killed by whatever means, and now their consciousness gets reincarnated from people into slimes and vending machines. It's really hilarious, and therefore I was saying that this will be a more funny video. I just was feeling let's have some fun. So now we could see this rather psychological than cosmological, right? That means basically that this has not a description of heavens. There is no isekai religious movement to my knowledge yet, though I'll be honest, I think sooner or later someone will come up with it and will create a religion out of that. I mean, look at the religions that popped up in the last 50 years. Some of them are extremely hilarious, so it's a possibility. And now obviously it's up to you if you are able to enjoy and watch and have fun with these narratives and with these mostly then not silly animated series, or whether you skip them. That's a personal taste. It definitely is a trend, is a strong trend if I take a look on the amount of productions that have been created in the past decade in relation to other genres. I can see a evolving trend. I think the more virtualized and impersonal our world gets, the more we are connected with our technological devices, and there is one of the things that the human brain sort of hates, that's this boredom. So people get bored, they play the games, and they envision, hey, that would be great if I could really be a wizard, a fighter, a warrior, a knight, whatever. And it triggers the imagination, it triggers the desire, and I think that's the reason for this subcultural movement popping up. And it's not to be taken really serious, but it's an interesting phenomena in the evolution of the human psyche, because obviously there is a reason why this is created, and I think the distancing of the people on itself is creating more the tendency, and as well the all-present social media posts showing everybody in the best spotlight. Everybody is trying to look there perfect and creating the impression that every moment and everything is perfect in life, or it isn't, right? But creates the desire to be reborn in a world where you are basically perfect. You are some overpowered hero, have some unique skills, and you are the only one or one of the few that has this power. And it's an escape from this world. No, so now from a agnostic mystical perspective, I don't take this serious. It's just funny thing. Obviously, the concept of heaven is more religious than mystical. In Buddhism, you have the heavens and hells are states of minds, basically, in certain schools of Buddhism, because Buddhism is really broad, so in certain schools. So it's more psychological. And from a mystic's perspective, the universe is a unity of being, so it's about awareness and consciousness rather than places and spaces. But there was a really funny thing when my daughter was in the kindergarten and we've been watching one of these shows. she like came to me and was like, "Hey dad, I mean, this fireball is really amazing. Can you teach me a fireball?" I was like, "Oh, well, we can certainly figure something out. It won't really be how you imagine it, but you can definitely have fun with fireballs. That's not a problem." So try to explain a child, like, in the physical world there is this law of preservation of energy, and to create fire you need actually energy to burn, and we haven't come that far that our minds can set things on fire without actually taking a match or gas or whatever. But I told her that there is a world where you can play around and you can definitely shoot fireballs. So when she's gone to sleep, I helped a little bit with lucid dreaming, and after a couple of attempts she was like, yeah, I was on Mars, and there were these bugs, and I was like shooting fireballs at them, and then I was, so describe it. Yeah, from my hand the fire and it exploded. I was like, yeah, but this fire was small. It was a fireball, not a fireball. There is a difference. Obviously, this is silly play, but she was a child and she wanted to learn how to shoot fireballs. And when it comes to lucid dreaming, everything is possible. You can visit worlds that you want, and I'm always a protagonist. It's better to work on yourself and play around in lucid dreams than just dumbly watching television. So you wanna try some isekai? Go for it. Just learn lucid dreaming and go into the realm of your imagination. Become the hero you want. Just realize that you will wake up the other day and it will be the same world here and the same responsibilities. So have fun and don't get too attached.